hear you. I can't see you.
All right. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Jiva Live. My name is John Titus, and I have the pleasure of hosting this great event for you this evening. I have two awesome guests. I have Jeff Rotundo and Susan Kim, both of Rider University, here to talk to us about scouting, game management, and other little things you can do before, during, and even after the match. I don't want to get into too long of a history, but Jeff and I go way back, Sue and I go way back. And before I forget, Aaron Laban is behind the scenes and was my coach for many years as well in the collegiate game. And Jeff, Sue, Aaron, and myself had many battles in club, college, and I'm sure still some more to come down the road. And I was always impressed in their use of data before, during, and of course after games as well. So I asked Jeff on the show, with the help of Sue, to tell us a little bit of what you do. But then I kind of had them go into a little bit more. And I said, Jeff, some of our viewership is going to want to know what the college game has and the X's and O's in college, but most of our viewers are of the club level, and how do those things change from when we look at the collegiate level to the club level? And they have a lot to say. They break down the numbers great, and they're going to show you a lot of, I don't know what we'll call tricks or little cues to look for, and the data points that really make a difference. And, if you look at the collegiate game, 3 points here and there is the difference between winning a set and losing a set. And that's what we're trying to get you, those extra 3 points tonight. So without further ado, Jeff, Sue, thank you for coming. And, we'll start off with the nice, easy questions. How the heck are you doing, Jeff? What are you up to, during this time of reflection and pandemic?
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you reaching out to us. Doing well, just a little bit more time at home, a little bit more time with the family, walks with the dog, stuff like that. I think the other thing that I'm learning from this is, I think the importance of connectivity, and connection. You miss it right now because you can't see people more in a human basis. You're doing it virtually right now, which doesn't lend itself to a really good connection. It's great. We're able to connect with the team and a lot of recruits on Zoom right now, but I think seeing the players in front of you and your friends in front of you on a more daily basis is something that you kind of miss for sure. So I think that's just something I'm reflecting on a little bit, is just relishing and appreciating those times when we're actually back together again.
No, I agree. And something we may want to look at further, Jeff, and I know we've both talked about this, is we might do a show later on about how is recruiting and the recruiting landscape and the recruiting rules changed over the last couple of months too, because I think a lot of coaches and of course players are confused on that too. So maybe a show in the future we can come up with too and have you guys on as a panel in some case with various coaches at different levels too. But Sue, same question, how you doing? Where are you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, thanks for having us on as well. I've been at home for the most part, but I have been venturing out into the real world and seeing some people here and there. Just trying to, again, like Jeff said, the importance of connectivity, being able to, see people. I think we take for granted, like even going to like a restaurant and sitting down and having that quality time and spending time with, your friends or, former players or anything like that. So it's been good. I've slowly been making my way out and just keeping in touch with people. So yeah, it's not too bad. We're all safe and healthy, so that's good.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, again, thank you guys for coming tonight. So before we get started into the nitty gritty and breaking things down, I do want to remind you, we are broadcasting live on Facebook at Jiva Juniors. And if you have any questions you want to ask the panelists, Jeff, Sue, myself, about data or anything else they can help us out with tonight, please ask that question on Facebook. Aaron Laban will relay that question to me, and I will be sure to get to as many as I possibly can. So Jeff, without further ado, we'll kind of start. And I think, Sue, you have a presentation for us that you're going to flash up on the screen and kind of get into, I guess, the introduction and kind of the agenda for this evening.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. So you want to go ahead for a little bit, or you want me to take it?
It's all you, buddy. This is your world.
Yeah. So, we took a look at just scouting and game management. And we kind of, the first couple slides are going to kind of be a side-by-side kind of comparison from, what we look at on the Division I level, comparatively what the things that you might want to take a look at a 15-16s club level or something like that. So just a little bit of a comparative and a narrative that we'll get into. But I think the most important things are, as we talk about these things, it's going to come down to about execution with your team and what can they execute, and what are they really good at executing right now let's play to our strengths, and then let's find out what the weaknesses are of the other team and see if we can expose them. So I think those are some areas, obviously, that you want to take a look at. What is our team efficient at? What can we execute at a high level? And what is this team inefficient at? And how can we take advantage of that? So, yeah, let's get into it a little bit. So for us, when we're kind of breaking some stuff down and factors to winning, for us at the Division I level, there's a few factors we take a look at. Attack efficiency, side out percentage, point scoring percentage, basically when you're holding serve on the block and defensive end. Convert percentage is tied into that as well. Just our ability to dig, but then also convert, not just touch a ball and now our setter's on the run. It's, are we digging this ball and are we in a 2-pass situation where we can do some different things with the offense in transition phase? Kill percentage, this falls on your outsides and your middles to be high kill and low error. That ties into the efficiency, but we look at kill percentage and then obviously a passer rating. So those are kind of the factors we take a look at that are, I would say, from most important to least important at the Division I level. And I know it seems weird that passer rating is down at the bottom, but we're going to talk about why that is in a second. And then the club level, we're thinking about a 16s team here. Your ability to score points and hold serve is going to be the most critical thing. If you can hold serve, get the other team out of system, put pressure on them with your serving game, your blocking game, and your defensive game, then a lot of times you're going to win. Side out percentage is another thing. If your side out percentage is at a certain percent, 60 or higher, you're going to win 80% of your matches. It's just kind of, that's the breakdown. Aces, aces accumulate more at the club level than they do at the Division I level. So your ability to score by hitting a good serve into court, with pace is going to be critical. And then obviously a kill percentage and a passer rating. So those are some of the things that you want to look at, not only with your team, but also how do we take advantage of weaknesses in the other team that will help us in these areas, if that makes sense. So anything I'm missing?
So you have aces in the Club 16 side, but not in the Division I side. So what do you at the Division I level, is it just that uncommon to get an ace, at your level that you don't even put on the chart, or it's something you don't shoot for, it just happens?
Yeah, we don't shoot for it. We talk about just hitting it. I mean, a lot of the conversations in our gym are just hit a good serve to the area at your speed 90 to 92% of the time. We want to be low error, but we also we want to take some risk. So we're okay being 10, 11% error because we do serve a certain way. We're going to try and be hitting it at 38, 42 miles an hour, an inch or two above the tape, but we're also going to be trying to hit small targets. So we're going to look to hit a 3-foot area in the back of the court, a 3-foot area in zone 1, but we're going to try and hit that strategically. So for us, it's about getting it to the right zone or the right person. And if the ace happens, awesome. At the club level, again, you might not be able to hit those smaller windows or hit it with the pace or maybe the arc, but we're just still saying if you can get it to the right person, you might get the ace, and then the aces accumulate more at the lower levels, whereas kills are going to accumulate more at the higher levels. So we're not so concerned with the ace. We're just so concerned with let's hit a good ball into a zone and get them out of system.
Awesome. Sue, anything else on this regard, or?
Nope.
Fair enough.
No, I'm good. All right, next slide.
Yeah, was there? Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we get into what we consider, what we call the point scoring phase, which is we have serve. At Division I, kills are going to accumulate. So point scoring phase. This is why we want the serve to get them what we call out of system, OOS. So we want that serve to get them out of system. So we're going to be pretty strategic on not only the person we're serving to, but where we're serving that person on their body. Whether we're trying to get it to a right shoulder or left foot, we're going to be pretty specific about where we want this ball. But because of that, if we don't get them out of system, then it's going to be really easy for a Division I team to side out. Even if we're doing a lot of things well on the block and defensive end. Club level, again, the aces are going to accumulate because the passing is not as consistent. But that's why your serving is critical. So you want to spend some time practice serving a good amount, but not serving where it's just, hey guys, 5 minutes, go serve. Don't make it that random. Don't make it seem like to your players that when you just say, hey, go serve for 5 minutes with no instruction or no direction, they're going to think it's not that big of a deal. So when you get those errors in a game, it's going to be a reflection of what you're doing at practice. We serve pretty methodically. We're going to have every player serve 10 balls every single day. They're going to record it. We're going to track it for speed and accuracy. And then we just chart that, and we just take a look at every player and say, hey, are you hitting your number, and are you getting it at 92%? Are you hitting your speed and hitting your zone? So, serving can be done 15 minutes a day in a pretty systematic way where you can see that your players are getting better, and then you can trust them to get it to a certain area in a match. So, serving is really critical because you want to get it to that passer on that side of the net that is struggling. She just shanked 3 balls in a row. She's already crying. Her mom and dad are upset, and let's get her the next ball, unfortunately. So the key is obviously serving in and to the right player. That's really, really important, obviously. Defending and holding serve or creating runs is equal to winning. So that point scoring percentage, if you can hold serve at 60%, so every time you serve 10 balls, you're going to get that point 60% of the time. You're going to win 75% of your matches. That's an accumulation of a ton of data points across all of club levels from 15 and 16. So, that's why, again, spending a little bit extra time on serving can actually pay off huge dividends at the club level. Because teams become a lot more predictable when they're out of system.
And I think if I could stop you right there, Jeff, I think what we're saying is not necessarily, hey, you gotta serve for the ace. We're definitely not saying that. Even at the club level, definitely at the division, the collegiate level, if I can hit my serve a certain way, then you have prepared your team well enough that at a high predictability rate that they're probably going to do this. And is that kind of what we're looking at? And would you agree with that? And if they have a perfect pass, they're probably going to run this. If they have a 2 or 1 pass, they're probably going to run this. Is that something you guys really force with your team?
Yeah, absolutely. Our team is going to go ahead, Sue. You started to speak.
No, I was actually going to kind of backtrack a little bit, but I'm just talking about like the training portion. I know, John, you just mentioned like aces. We're not telling even at the kids at the club level that aces is what we're trying to strive for. We're training them. We actually train our college team and our club teams the same way, with that focus of hitting certain zones, hitting certain targets at a certain speed, but also focusing on getting the teams out of system. And at the club level, you just happen to accumulate more aces as a result of getting the teams out of system, not because we're having the girls go back and rip these serves as hard as they can. So there is a purpose to how we're training the kids, whether they're college level athletes or if they're club level athletes. So the training portion, I believe, is the same. At least our philosophy, that's how we train our collegiate players and how we train our club players. But yeah, even talking about passing and tracking, like on a 3 pass, what are they doing? On a 2 pass, what are they doing? Obviously at the college level, we have a lot more time to sit here and dive into this data. So, this is stuff that takes hours and hours of prep time for us. We have a lot more resources to be able to do that. At the club level, you're kind of doing it live on the spot. And we'll kind of show you, we have an example of some templates that we use that we can kind of manually scout, which kind of, you can actually sit there and go through like the passes and stuff and what set plays they're running as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So along with that too, a question I'm curious about is, so one of the differences you see in coaching styles is, okay, I tell my team where to serve, they hit that spot, and then I have to tell my team a reminder, or somebody's job on the court is to remind them what they're probably going to run in this set. Who does that on your bench? What player do you tell that to? Do you tell it to every player? And how is that orchestrated in your gym?
Yeah, you leaving that to me.
Because it's your job.
Yeah, it's my job. So basically, we divide up the game management responsibilities. I handle block and defense. Sue handles our offense. This year we have 2 other assistants with us. So one will be in charge of tracking what the other team's blockers are doing, and one will be in charge of serve pass. So we kind of divide up those responsibilities. But if you have 2, since I'm doing block and defense, I will also be in charge of, serving, and stuff like that, and telling her servers where to hit. Sue's in charge of offense, so she might on the same time be tracking the other team's block, seeing what they're doing. Do they have a middle that jumps around a lot? Are we going to try and take advantage of that? So for us, we have a certain kind of, code that we use, I guess, certain words that we use or and stuff like that. And we just kind of yell this out pre-serve. I'm sure during our matches against each other, John, you've probably been like, what is he saying over there? So we just kind of yell out certain things. We'll yell out what play we think they're going to run. We'll yell out what block and defensive package we're in, and then I'll give the zone, and here we go. What we're serving, and there we go. So we communicate that to everybody, and then that way they know, because it could change rotation to rotation. It could change serve to serve, where all of a sudden we just get a gut feeling like, hey, they're going to set this kid here. She's not their usual go-to, but right now they're struggling and they're going to be trying to do anything different. So we'll change it on the fly pretty quickly.
Cool. Yeah, and every team does it a little bit differently. I know, Erin Laban usually ran our scouting report on the other side, and she would tell a libero, and our libero or our back row defender would tell the rest of the team, hey, these are their first and second choices on these particular plays. So it's cool to see how different teams do it differently. So I like that.
Yeah. And then going back to the serving portion, when you're training that, and again, it's all about putting pressure on the other team. How can we put pressure on the other team, which makes them more predictable? I'd want to encourage teams to not be afraid of serving the libero. Everybody just looks and they think that libero is not a target. One of our philosophies is to test the libero early. Like, get her the first ball, see if her head's in it. And if she shanks the first ball, or it's not a great pass, try her again. See if you can get her out of sorts, because maybe that carries over in her defensive game, and now she's struggling all over the place. Another thing that really works well, and it works at all levels, is really going after a cross-court serve, where you can hit it a little bit harder, a little bit flatter. We had a great amount of success with that, going zone 1-to-1, and really going after liberos, because they don't like passing that short ball to their right. They just didn't do it well. Even at our level, they weren't doing it well. So we had a bunch of kids that could just hit zone 1-to-1 and just get it to just coming at you really fast, and all of a sudden it just drops. So that's something to work on. Is the same thing 5-to-5, because now you can get a ball really jamming up and outside who just wants to get outside to hit. So you can get her in a some type of way where she's having a bad match, just because you're putting a lot of pressure on her with the serve.
Yep. All right. So along those lines, we already have a great first question from Facebook. Yep. So I'm curious to see who takes this, Sue or Jeff. And they ask, what would you put more emphasis on, serving lanes and being accurate and hitting your spots, or serving, a great float or jump serve with pace?
Want me to take this one?
Yeah, go ahead. You're good. You got it.
I like the first one, serving lanes, hitting spots. I think serving with a purpose and in a direction is always good. Just serving with pace. To be honest, it really depends on the server though too. So if you have a kid who you're okay with giving her the green light and she goes back and rips it, she might be successful in how she serves, and she's just a hard server. Or if you have kids that can hit spots, whether they're deep, short, especially short servers, some of your players are good at hitting those spots. So I'm a big fan of, going down the lane and hitting certain spots, but sometimes there's those kids that could just go back and rip it. So I think it just really depends on your personnel.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you kind of alluded to before something that you threw out there, and you may not even know you did it, but you alluded to the idea of miles per hour on a server, 38 to 42. There's a lot of research that I'm sure you read on that. Why, if I'm jump serving, but I'm only hitting 36 miles per hour, should I even bother?
I think jump serving is good no matter if your pace is at 28 or 38, because I just think it adds a level of, I think mentally passers tense up a little bit more when they see somebody jump float serving. They just automatically assume it's going to be a tougher serve. So even if you're only hitting it at 28 and it's a jump float serve, it's giving you maybe a little bit more of a higher contact point, so you can hit it a little bit flatter. And then eventually, as your arm speed develops, you can start getting a little bit more pace on the ball. We always talk about, depending on your trajectory, your pace could lend you to hitting it long off the deck, or it drops. You just have to be careful about your pace, because a 5'8" kid hitting it at 44 miles an hour, it's going to end up sailing long, but a 6'2" kid hitting at 44, she's probably going to be able to hit it at a trajectory where it just kind of zips in there and drops. But, to go back to Sue's point, yeah, I think the personnel is huge, because if you have kids that can, we train lanes, because we might be just trying to get it right at somebody's left shoulder, go right at her left shoulder hard. Or we might say, hey, get it in this seam between these two really well. They don't work well together. So for us, picking a lane and then a small target in that lane makes a lot more sense to us, because we have very small areas or windows that we can get the ball into where we know this player is a good passer or this player is a bad passer. So, somebody serving right at them at their wheelhouse, they're going to be a 2-4 passer. But if I get it over her right shoulder, she's a 1-5 passer. So we've got to hit those smaller windows.
Awesome. All right. The questions are already flooding in. So we got another great one if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
So I love this one because I would say yes on this. And I'm curious to see what you guys say is, does a setter's particular level of skill perhaps affect where you serve to as well? And I see this a lot at the club level and even at the collegiate level when I serve to zone 1, because a lot of setters are really bad at taking the ball from zone 1 because they can't open and close properly. Would you agree or have any other insights on that?
Yeah, I think it's another one of those strategic things to take a look at. When you have a setter running from zone 3 or 4, we say serve zone 1, because again, that play, or, we say serve the lanes, so serve zone 1. So if she's not really fast, then serve zone 5, because now she's on the run. She's got to stop. She might have to backtrack to get to a ball because that player just passed it right in front of her. If she is pretty fast, serve zone 1, because then she's having to look at a ball come over her shoulder, like you just said, and she's probably more predictable. Not a lot of setters like to move this way at that young age and then, jack the hut all the way across the court. So that you probably already know they're going to set the red or they're going to set the right side. They become a little bit more predictable. Your defense hopefully is in a better spot. So yeah, we definitely take advantage of that. If we see, traffic in an area or something like that, or some of those weird serve receive patterns where you have the setter coming from behind zone 6 in row 2 because they want to drop somebody back. Yeah, like go right at her, and make her have to duck or do something else like that. But yeah, we definitely take a look at the setter positioning and release and how capable she is, and try and take advantage of maybe if she's slow of foot, how do we take advantage of that and make her run around a little bit?
Cool. And so we're, if you'd like to continue with the presentation, we're good for
it.
All right, next slide.
We're good. Okay.
Wait, hold on.
There we go.
It? Okay.
Yep, that's it. So
I can't
then we
see
get
my mouse. So.
I know, right? So now the side out phase where we just talk about, this is when we're now in serve receive. So again, when we're in serve receive, we take a look at attack efficiency, kill percentage, first ball side out. We want to, again, be really good in those areas. Those areas kind of translate to our ability to win. Club level, passer rating. You guys, again, since aces are going to accumulate, the passing is less consistent than what we're getting at our level, then yeah, the passer rating is going to be really a big factor. So again, like how well is our team handling serve receive? How good can we pass? Out of system. When we don't get a great pass, when we're in a one pass scenario, how aggressive are we? Or are we looking to erase that bad pass? We talked to our outsides about, hey, you have to erase a bad pass or erase a bad set. You can't just go up and whack the ball out of bounds. That's not a good situation. So there's a time to be aggressive, know when to live, know when to kill. So we just always talk to our hitters about, know when you need to erase something. We'll even say, when you see a setter is on the run, to start yelling out to your team at practice, erase, and let your hitter know, be aggressive, but be smart. We call it a trade. We're in a bad situation. The last thing we want to do is send a free ball to libero, where now we're in it's not a good trade for us. So at least get up, spin a ball into a seam, spin a ball high 1 like you're playing beach, and make them have to play from something. Like, erase that mistake and at least put them in a situation where they have to make a great play. Don't just give them that free point. That's kind of the things we talk about. And again, these are things you can talk about and work with your team in serve receive. When you're working on side out offensive practice, just where you're talking about going into a match, guys, like we have to manage our errors here. This is a team that plays pretty clean. If we go high error, sure enough, if we go above 9 or 10 errors this set with serving and hitting errors, we're probably going to be on the wrong end of it. So those are conversations heading into a match. You can say to your team, we got to be aggressive, but not reckless. Let's stay clean here and see if we can make them earn their points.
Cool. So a couple of things that I have questions about on this side, and I don't want to give away any of your trade secrets or anything.
You're good.
So, all right. So you talk about having a plan B.
Yeah.
When you say a plan B, is that a different serve receive pattern or different attacking patterns, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both. You want to, again, I think Sue can get into this about how quickly we'll adjust serve receive, drop somebody out, pull somebody back, how quickly we'll change the play. So I'll kind of let her kind of dive into that, because that's her, her realm of expertise during matches and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of one for making quick changes if we're struggling in a serve receive pattern, or if we had a game plan in a certain rotation of what place that we want to run and it's not working. We just we kind of look at what are the again personnel, who do we have out there, who's running what, who's blocking on the other side, what do they struggle with. We kind of know a lot of those numbers too, like what are they good at blocking and what do they struggle with blocking certain sets. So we'll kind of try to do different things where we're maybe trying to spread everybody out and create some space, run a regular hut, one red, or do we try and overload one side? Do we try to split people and isolate? So I mean, we always have a game plan of different play sets that we run in each of the rotations, just because, well, you have to. You can't just be one dimensional, so you have to have different options and stuff. So, I mean, we're always just kind of looking at, what's available, what's working at the time. So, because sometimes you go in with a plan and you know that a team might struggle with something, so you decide to attack it, but they happen to pick those things up, or you know that they're really good at blocking something, so you try to avoid it, but it happens to work that day. So those are just things that you have to be good at picking up on, even during match play, just to, be able to run an audible and be flexible in those moments.
Got it. So, all right, make me, I don't know, debate me here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm looking at these slides right now between Division I and club. Yeah. And I look at Division I and I see rewarding being super aggressive all across the board right there. Attacking efficiency, kill percentage, first ball side out, aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. Right. I look on the 16 club side and I feel like we're going, be aggressive, but make sure you keep the ball in play. Is that kind of what we're alluding to?
Yeah. And the only reason being is, at our level, if we just snap a benign ball to zone 5, we're done. We're done. That team's going to side out. Whereas if you guys put a ball in a zone 5 or a 5-6 seam, they still have to make a great play. There's a little bit less, there's less consistency to the play level. So again, a ball, zone 6 player could step in front of the libero and take that ball, and all of a sudden it goes off her arms wrong. That setter's on the run. Whereas at our level, we snap a ball into the 5-6 seam. Libero's taking that ball 99,000 times out of 99,001, and they're going to side out. They're going to score. They're going to be in a good position. So, and then for us also, I think our players, we've just trained them so well with attacking that out of system ball with pace from 12 feet off the net, and making sure it gets on that person in the back row in a hurry, that we're okay with that error if we see them going for it, because we've seen them do that 1,000 times at practice. We've trained that out of system swing 20 minutes every single day, where we're just working on, hey, we're going to be out of system, so let's not give easy balls. So we've trained that to a point where we can say go after it, because if we don't go after it, we're not siding out. We're not going to put them in a good position. Whereas maybe the lower level, their skill or their hand contact isn't where it needs to be yet for them to be aggressive on that swing and be consistent with it. So they're going to be aggressive and they're going to get one, and it's going to be like, oh, that was awesome. Then the next one's going to be 3 courts over. And then the next one might be in the tape. Our players, it's going to be 8 of them are going to be where we want, and then there's going to be the 2 errors. And then they're going to dig 3, but we're okay with that percentage. You know what I mean? We're going to be okay living with that.
Yep, makes sense to me. I like it. So another question from Facebook that's along the same lines, kind of back to where we were before, was have you trained some of your players, especially your liberos and your serve receivers, to use their hands and be more aggressive with their hands and serve receive, and even on free ball plays? And like on the other side, vice versa, if you see a serve receive player that's taking a lot of balls with an overhead pass, is that something you try to attack, or every player is a little bit different on how you handle that?
Well, I think it's if a player's strong enough to take a ball with their hands, I highly encourage it, especially if it's like a float serve. Because I think a lot of times kids nowadays are working really hard to get their midline behind the ball when it's tough to do that in some situations. Even though we all know passing in your midline is probably where you get your best passes, but you can't always have that, especially when you have a hard float serve coming at you. So if they can use their hands, and that's another tool in their tool belt that they can use, then I say go for it. the game has changed so much. Back when probably the three of us played, we weren't allowed to do that. So I think that's a huge advantage in the game, to be able to use your hands. Now, there's some players that are like tiny and they struggle with some, some strength to be able to push the ball up. So if that's the case, then I might just move the player back so that she just has a little bit more range with her platform. But yeah, if they can use their hands, I highly encourage it. That's my personal opinion. I don't know, Jeff, if you have any different things to say about that. But yeah, if they can grab it and chuck it and get that ball up in the air, I'm all for that.
I'll have you know, Sue, I was in college when that change happened. So it was interesting to see that during that time. So all right,
definitely.
Yeah, we had side out scoring too. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we got next here?
Yeah, let's go to the next one. I mean, the keys we kind of covered. We talked about the plan B, and then obviously that side out percentage again translates to winning. Factors to winning. I think some of the things that coaches can take a look at before the match. You have time. If your second match, get there early and scout the first match, scout the first two opponents. You can take 20 to 30 minutes, watch a set, and kind of come up with some tendencies. Same thing if you're a work team and you're one of the coaches that's sitting at the table. What else are you doing? So grab a sheet, take some notes, and you can come up with a little bit of a pre-match thing to kind of help. Again, it's simple. Know the bad passers. Know who's struggling. Know who doesn't look like they're like they're a good passer. You can kind of tell if somebody's technique doesn't look great. All right, well, let's take advantage of her. Tendencies. Are there hitter tendencies? Are there setter tells? Does she lean a lot? Does she only jump set when she sets the middle? All those little things that can kind of give you a little bit of advantage to at least tell your team, hey, when she's in the air, she's setting the middle, and stuff like that. What defense do they play? Are they in a rotate? Are they in a perimeter? Are they playing middle? Are they in some kind of rover defense? What are they doing? But how can that help? If they're in a perimeter defense and you're in trouble, make the outside have to do a couple things. Make that off block outside have to pass, get outside and hit. If they're in a rotate and the setter is up underneath, make her play, put them out of system. And then maybe they're not a good out of system team. So now the libero has to come in and set. They don't get a great swing. They're out of rhythm. So those are things that are good, but also it helps you tell your team where to go if you're in trouble. Like, hey, if we're tight, if it's not there, or even if you want to be the player that tips the perfect set just to keep them off balance, know where to tell them to go. There's certain areas that are a lot more vulnerable in certain defenses. This shiny object middle, that's the middle that like, oh, look it over here. And they just follow everything that's going on. The pass goes over to the left, they move to the left. Pass goes to the right, they move to the right. So that shiny object middle, like take advantage of them. If they're going to start running all over the place, then misdirect them. If you know that your setter's good at it, she can go back to zone 2 and get the ball outside. You're probably going to be a one-on-one because she's just following the movement. So those are things to take a look at. Go ahead, Jim.
So in a sense, you're talking about, if you have a middle that always favors towards the ball and you have a setter that can reverse flow, you can take advantage of that big time. So along those lines, I was going to ask is, on the club level, who is doing this pre-match scouting report? Is it a coach, the assistant coach? Does the coach work towards teaching their team how to do this? What would be your approach to a club season in this regard?
Sue, you can touch on this. I personally would do all of that. I would start out doing it first, and then next time give the team a sheet and be like, all right, we're going to do this together. Because that way it helps them to see the things that you see. And then all of a sudden they go into a match, or maybe they're in a match and they can say, hey, coach, they're doing this now. Can we do this? And it's like the light bulb went off. Now they're starting to record the game a little bit and learn from it. That's just my thoughts. Sue?
Yeah, I know Jeff is really good at this. He's pretty disciplined when he's at tournaments and doing this stuff. I'll be honest, I'm coaching the younger kids usually. So at 13s, I just pray that the serve goes over the net. I'm not doing this as much as he is, but I know when I was coaching high school, this is something that I would make the players do for sure. I think for them to kind of see with their own eyes, to track, gives them a better chance of, remembering what they saw, and gives them some, I guess, input even in some of the things they see. Like some of the players will be like, well, I think I can get that, or I think it's better if we do this. So, I mean, they're the ones out on the court. So if they, can contribute to even the things that they see, I think that helps them learn and increase their volleyball IQ.
So Sue, I like that where you went with that. And I think it's important for some of our viewers is we're geared, this is a list kind of more for 16-year-olds. Sue, if you can only pick you got a 13-year-old sitting there at a scorer's table, her volleyball IQ is of course a little as low, and still she's still a beginner. What do you tell that 13-year-old to look for? What tendency can you tell a 13-year-old to try to understand?
Cool. Really, in all honesty, I think I focus more on our team rather than the other team at that level. I think half the time I'm trying to teach them, to make sure they're in the right rotation, that they don't, overlap and things like that. So I think it's really tough for them to look at the tendencies of other teams. If anything, I kind of use it more of a, hey, look at the other team and see what they're doing. This is something that you want to be able to do, or you want to strive towards. I'll be honest, at that level, I'm not talking about tendencies and things like that. I just think it's too much for them, at least where I'm teaching, my kids at that level. I just don't think they're there. But yeah, at the 16s level, I would definitely have them pick up on that stuff because they see it too. Like Jeff mentioned some of the examples earlier, like does a setter jump when she's setting middle, or a lot of them stand pretty straight up when they're about to set middle, or do they load and get ready to push far deep, so I think through conversation with the players, like when you're at the work table, during some of the breaks and you're watching some of these teams and the kids make comments about certain things, you're able to have some dialogue between them, between you and the players, to kind of talk about the tendencies. So I think just those kinds of teaching moments. But yeah, at the 13s level, somebody might be doing it, or they might have a really good 13s team. But in my experience, a lot of my kids at that level are just starting out. So it's hard to kind of go over some of that stuff.
So I think this gets into kind of a cool little side conversation is, okay, I know the other team is going to do this. I know their weakness is that. And I know if we do that, we can score. But that only matters if I can actually execute that skill. Correct. So right. This weird area of, we can't do that, so why are we trying to do that?
Right.
And you get into those weird conundrums and problems. And so Jeff and Sue, kind of, let me rephrase the last question. So if 13s is too young, or we can't do those things to capitalize on other teams' inefficiencies, when do you start at 14, 15, 16 to introduce those ideas?
I think we've typically done it, I think, when we get to a 14 level where we see a team that's pretty good. We have a 14s team that's got a lot of good capabilities, and we start to sprinkle that in. We start to sprinkle in the, hey, how many hitters? Where's the setter? Hey, what's your middle doing? Where is she releasing to? All those little things to kind of start paying attention to. But even then, you're right. And even at our level, when we're taking a look at, 12 hours worth of data, it's about, all right, this is all great. Can we execute? Can we execute literally 2% better than this team? Because if we can, we're going to win. Because then it's 25-22 or 25-23. If we can execute 10% better, then it's 25-18. But it all comes down to, awesome, we want to put these things in place. All right, so if these are the factors to winning, how do we practice them so my team can become efficient in these areas that correlate to winning? So, the serve pass is first and foremost. You can serve, you can pass, and you can hit the ball in with pace on the attack side, then you're going to put a lot of pressure on your opponent for sure. Cool. No matter what level you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, we might be able to touch on that question again. And can, the efficiency level, it goes back to, if I do this, I win, but how often can I do that?
Correct. Efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sue, do you want to go next slide?
Yeah, let's take a look. All right. So once you get into the match, obviously everybody, there's going to be a hitter that goes off. How do you cool her off? There's certain ways you can do that. I mentioned it earlier, put a lot of pressure on her. If she's dropping back to pass, serve 5-5. If she's in the zone 5 ready to pass, or if she's back in zone 1 and she's in the front row hitter, like, go at her and make her drive her deep, or bring her short, get her out of rhythm. If she's front row, make her play the off block tip and have to do something else. So maybe find a way to get her out of her rhythm. Maybe load your block over there. Like maybe say to your middle, hey, you're only worrying about her. We'll get somebody else to worry about the middle and the right side. So left front, you've got the middle, and the opposite middle, you're releasing and getting this outside with right front, and just find ways to slow that person down, make some adjustments. What are they doing in service Eve that's helping them? What are we doing that's helping us? Are we making adjustments because somebody's not passing well? Did all of a sudden we went after this player 4 times in a row, she dimed 3 balls, or she didn't and they moved her out and they switched things up. Now what do we do? You know, it's almost like that chess game. Did they change their defense because we made this player play like 4 balls in a row? They didn't do well. Now they're changing their defense and they're doing something else, and now we have to play chess and do something else. So it's almost like you're constantly trying to stay one step ahead of the opponent, and you do that by looking through the net and seeing what's working, what isn't working. I always encourage people, don't watch the ball as much as you can. I know it's crazy because that dictates what happens, but if you can get used to watching people and movement and what's going on the other side, all of a sudden it's like, oh, all right, that kid's going to be out of position. We need to take advantage of that and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I like this idea. I mean, we both know we've seen some incredible outside hitters that, you know, if you just push them back a little bit, even if they get off a good pass, it throws off their rhythm just enough that they can't, you know, hit that ball hard anymore, or put pace on that ball. And they still might be swinging, but their efficiency level goes down fast if you make them do a little bit extra. And maybe not even during the first set, maybe not even during the second set. You know, and yeah, in club, we only play best out of 3, but definitely in a collegiate game, you make that kid work, come set 4 or 5, she's going to be tired, you know, and her game will change.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's tendencies you can watch during the match. Like when this player has to pass deep in zone 5 and her rhythm is off, she always rolls the ball to the middle of the court. So that's a tell, you know, and then it's like, all right, cool, she's in trouble. So now, you know, you don't have to sit back on a heavy, hard driven ball and get dug in. And then that soft roll drops. It's like, hey guys, we got to, you know, and mentally your libero can prep for that roll shot because she's seen it, you know, and you've pointed it out to her. Hey, look, when she's in trouble, it's a little bit off the net, 5 feet off the net. She's spinning right to the middle of the court. So let's be ready for that.
Cool. All right. So next question, there's a lot of ideas in this. So we want to make a change mid-match in a game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a blocking scheme change. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a defensive scheme change. So I guess first we'll start with the blocking idea. If I want to make a change in blocking, is that a coach's decision, a player decision? You know, it depends on every situation. And then if a player does want to change a blocking scheme, do they tell their coaching staff? Do they tell their team? What's your take on how that happens?
So you want to go?
I think at the club level, it's probably going to be the coach that's making that decision. I don't typically see the players at that level, you know, having too much input. I mean, a lot of times they're not even posting the block where it needs to be. It's like the ball's way outside the pin and they go and chase it. But I think at that level, it's definitely something the coaches are probably looking to change. At our level, I think it goes both the coaching staff and the players. If the players kind of think that they can do something to make an adjustment because what they're doing in the moment isn't working, you know, they have more than, you know, we like to collaborate with them on that stuff. So the players will come and talk to us about it. And of course they have to communicate that with the rest of the team because that might change our defense as well. So depending on, you know, what our block's doing, are we taking away line? Are we taking away cross? And what's the defense doing behind them is important. So I think it's both. Again, you know, we're also tracking at the collegiate level, we're also tracking, we have our numbers pre-match and what our plan is, our game plan is, but even during the match, you'll see Jeff manually scouting. So he'll have data, you know, live data on what, you know, the other team's been doing. And if we need to make any adjustments, or sometimes you just kind of go with your gut too. Mm-hmm. So as much as, you know, Jeff's in charge of block and D and I'm in charge of offense, you know, there's times in a match when I've gone up to Jeff and said, hey, I think we need to make an adjustment here. And sometimes it's playing to the strengths of our players too. So, you know, I think that's one of the hard things about, you know, being a coach. And I'm sure a lot of, you know, coaches have kind of ran into this. It's part science, part art, right? So we have this data, we have all this information, but also being able to kind of make some adjustments on the fly, I think is, you know, part of being a good coach and being able to play off of what you're seeing with your team and stuff like that too. So yeah, I think, I mean, there might be some kids at the club level that have made those, you know, suggestions to coaches. And I think, again, listening to your players because they're on the court is really important, and to hear what they have to say. I mean, there's times I'm like, no, we're still going to do this. But
it's not that. It's just we're just not executing well, so we'll go execute better.
yeah, it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. But I feel like at the club level, most of those adjustments are happening from the coaches rather than the players.
Right. And I think, kind of along the same time. So now we're looking at the back row defensively. Has there ever been a time where you give a back row player, maybe a libero or a setter, the green light to either cheat or adjust as they feel they need because they're playing that mental game of chess with the player on the other side of the court, and you've kind of given that green light to make that read? Or is that something you kind of say, hey, we have a team system here. You need to stay in the system so everything and every piece works together. Like, where do you balance that?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had that happen a lot, where players have, right after a serve or right after a point is over, run over to the sideline and say, hey, coach, can I do this here? And like, yeah, go. You're seeing something, your gut's telling you that. I know you've watched enough film at my level. You're seeing it right in front of you. Yeah, go for it. We've had liberos come and say, hey, I feel like the setter is gonna dump here. She'll just go like that, say, can I pinch? Yeah, go pinch, step in. Or a middle come and say, hey, can I trap? You want me to trap the seam or do you want me to leave it? If there's a seam here and they're running fast, do you want me to reach into the seam or do you want me to leave it for back row? Or she'll come over and say, I'm reaching for the seam, I can get it. It's like, okay, get it, but you better get it then. Don't reach and then get tooled. So we're okay with that, and especially the libero giving her a green light. Like, go. I don't care if you're deep in zone 5 and you see the soft roll going into zone 2 and you can get it, go get it. Let everybody else clear, but go get it. But don't stop until you get it. Don't say you're going to get it and then slow down or anything like that. So no, we're okay with them coming up and saying that. And I would even be okay with that at the club level if they're coming over and saying, coach, I see this. Like, okay, what did you see? This. Okay, cool. I like that you just were able to kind of dialogue with me there. Go for it. If you're seeing it, then go for it.
I think the most important thing is making sure that that's communicated with everybody else on the team, because we're all trying to run certain systems or packages. And if you give your libero the green light, then you need to know that there's not going to be other players in her way too. So I think the defense around her also needs to know, like, if it's this ball, she's getting it. We might be in perimeter, and typically this might be, the person in zone 1. If libero sees it, she's going to go get it. So I think communication is also going to be important in this situation. Make sure that everybody's on the same page, because even if you give your libero the green light, the last thing you want is, although I'd rather 2 people collide than the ball drop, you definitely want, you don't want your players to purposely get hurt in that situation. So if they're communicating that, or they know how to, duck and weave, someone, goes short, the other one covers deep. If they have that, down pat too, I think that would help.
Cool. Maybe I might be jumping the gun on this because I know we're going to look at the template in a little bit, but if I'm a one coach club team, or even if I'm lucky enough to have an assistant, or maybe my players are trying to keep some stats or data, what 1 or 2 things should I be charting to keep it as simple as possible during a match? And if I'm jumping the gun, feel free to tell me. You're going to show me later.
No, I think just charting the other team's passing, where they're hitting and what play they're running, I think is important. I think those 3 things you can formulate a way to attack them and kind of create mismatches or get them out of system, whatever it may be, or at least make it easier for your team to block and defend based on those tendencies. Like, who's not a great passer? What play are they running in each rotation? And then where are their hitters hitting to? Because everybody's going to expose their favorite shot, and before you know it, after about 2 matches, who's hitting what. This hitter likes to hit line. This hitter likes to hit sharp cross inside the block. This hitter is just a zone 6 hitter because she doesn't want to take the risk. She's going to keep hitting the same spot over and over again. So that helps you understand, where do I play my defense? Where do I play my block? And stuff like that. So no, I would think those 3 things, and based on the chart, we'll show you guys. It's you can do it with just one person. It's not rocket science. It's just kind of just jotting down some numbers and some hieroglyphics on a sheet, and then you can just kind of go from there.
So you're saying I don't need some fancy application? I just do this on pen and paper?
No, you don't need data. You don't need data volley or volley metrics or anything like that. You can do it right on pen and paper. That's what when I'm at club, when I'm an assistant with a club team, that's what I do. I just bring paper and scout. When I'm at the college level, yeah, we probably print out 300 sheets of data And, we look like the mad scientists in our office, but no, at club, you can just do it with one sheet. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sue, I think we're ready for the next slide.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Yeah. Post-match, I just think for us, this debrief, we always talk about this, and, we like to just circle up, or if we're in the locker room, we try to make it where there's no hierarchy. There's no, I'm not leading this discussion. If anything, I'm going to get it started, but then it is going to be like, all right, what did you guys see? And then let the awkward silence happen until somebody speaks, and stuff like that. But I think the way we always structure it is let people speak and say, hey, I think they did this well, but I think we did this well. And then also it's okay for players to be, I think, vulnerable in this moment and say, hey, you know what? I could have done this a little bit better. And then say, okay, well, tell me what do you think you could, why do you think you could have done that better? And how are you going to do it better next match? Like, I think this is an area where club coaches and even college coaches like to just come in and just vomit, right? And it's just like, and the players just stand there and the parents are waiting to go get coffee. And it's just like, instead, make it more collaborative. Like, make it like, all right, guys, what did you see? How did you think this went? How did you think that went? Give me a recap, and let them go. Because you might find out something from them that you were like, that's really good insight. Awesome,
So on this regard, Jeff, and I think it's different on the college and the club level, or maybe not, I could be wrong, is how long is this debriefing section in the club game? Because sometimes you got to play right again pretty fast.
Yeah.
So how long do you take?
A couple minutes. I think give enough people a chance to talk. If you're not playing or working right, I mean, if you're working, like, make the R2 wait a second, like, I'm trying to talk to my team. No offense to the refs out there, but but if you're not playing, I would give it like 5 minutes to just, hey guys, let's recap a little bit. Let's take us through set 1 and 2, and what did we do well? What didn't we do well? And then just listen. For us, it's not that much longer. I'd say, what do you, Sue, like, how long are we in the locker room?
Maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
It's really not that long, but I'm
Yeah.
laughing right now because Jeff says 5 minutes, but sometimes he has a hard time landing the plane. So
Shut up.
5 minutes? Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's open up a dialogue and then kind of remove yourself and let them explore what they thought went well, what they didn't think went well. And then, okay, guys, well then how do we adjust for the next match? And I think you can find out that they're sometimes a lot smarter than we give them credit for, because they're the ones that are out there kind of competing in it.
And then this is probably a question you may not have been ready for, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it kind of alludes to this. So now we have all this data from the match. Do you use that data to build your practice plan for the coming week?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when we game plan, we'll have our scout, everything done by, if we have a match Saturday, we'll have the scout done by Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, we're implementing game plan, at our practices. So we're going to take a look at what are our strengths compared to their weaknesses. What do we need? What block and defense are we going to be in? What offense do we need to take a look at? And then, more than likely Thursday, we're going to implement that. And then Friday is just a day for, let's go an hour, 6-on-6. Let's just get after it and get out. And then still working on those things. But we're going to probably put the game plan in on Thursday.
Fair enough. And that's on the collegiate level. And then Sue, if you want to take the club side. So, hey, we just looked at, our match data from the weekend of a club tournament, and these are the things we're good at. These are the things we're bad at. Do you just kind of put that to the side and say, who cares? Or do you use that to plan your club practices for the next week or so?
No, I'm definitely using that to plan. I think, again, at a 16s level, they kind of have a lot of the basic stuff done. So we're kind of going over where we're struggling. Like, are we struggling with serve? Are we too high error? Are we really struggling without a system? Because majority of the times we're probably going to be out of system. So, those are things that I think we definitely would implement. At the younger age groups, I have a routine of what we're teaching. I kind of like to beat the fundamentals to death, just to make sure that they really get it. They need to be able to serve. I know that we spend a lot more time, I think, at the younger age groups than I would at the older age groups for that. But yeah, we're definitely going to be looking at where we're struggling. I think that's good to have that kind of information, especially if you can. I know we do, hand scouting and stuff like that at the 15, 16s level, but a lot of our coaches, and even, when I am coaching that level, I have, we usually have like an iPad where we use like volley stats or something like that to use for, just some quick stats. So you have some numbers. They might not be super accurate, but just to have an idea of where we're struggling or who's struggling. Do we break off into, different groups? And, we have some people working on defense, some people working on offense and things like that. So we do like to use that information just so that we have something that we're, some goals that we want to, some areas that we can kind of look at and be able to measure and say, are we improving in those areas?
And I don't know if you want to mention either Jeff or Sue. There are obviously a lot of apps out there. I don't, if you want to mention a couple that you use, I know some of them do cost, on the premium features and whatnot, but what are some of the, the easier ones that a newer coach might want to take a look at, and maybe some of the more high level ones that you might use at the collegiate level?
I'm pretty sure I use iStat VBall. Is that what I'm so used to just clicking I can tell you exactly what the icon looks like, but I think it's iStat VBall that we use. I like the interface. It's pretty easy to use. And they've had some good upgrades through the years. So at that level, I mean, that you kind of need an assistant coach for. I definitely can't do both. I can't stat and coach at the same time. So, and if you're good at that, then kudos to you, but I definitely can't do that. But yeah, that's what I use. I don't know. I think Jeff, you use the same one, right?
Yeah, I was using the same one when I was doing it with club. Now I'm the assistant, and I do the paper scout when we're there, so I don't use the software there anymore. But iStats VB I think is the one that we use. It's pretty good. It's one of the ones we use. I know there's other ones. I know GMS has an app now too, GMS Stats. That's pretty good that Joe put together. And I'm trying to think. I know there's a few others, but I think those are the two that I've seen the most.
Yeah, there's like Rotate 1, 2, 3 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a few others.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there. Feel free to experiment. But as we said, paper and pencil is pretty efficient. So I think you guys have a template, or is that next for
Chelsea? Do you have that, or you want me to share it, Sue?
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to share that.
All right,
I can pull it up, but it might take me a little bit.
All right, let me open that up really quick. I think.
Yeah, and I will say, as I opened this up the other day from Sue, I'm like, that looks really familiar. And if Erin will probably attest, because she did it more than I did, your sheet is almost identical to the one we use as well.
Yeah, and now why can't I find it? So what did I do with this thing? What did you do with it?
What did I do with it?
Yeah. I think it's hidden behind one of these windows. Give me 1 second. I apologize for my
no problem.
Lack of readiness here.
See if I can pull it up too.
So I guess while he's trying to find that, I know it's really good for visual stuff when you're tracking and you're drawing lines and stuff like that. I actually know coaches that literally do like tally marks. Like they'll have their little categories of stats that they want to look at, and then they do tally marks. So I guess it depends on your preference and what's important to you and what makes sense to you. So
yeah, right. Can everybody see that now? I guess.
Yeah. So Sue and Jeff, let's assume we're talking to a brand new coach. So break this down, piece by piece.
Yeah. So
isn't it pretty?
Very colorful.
Yeah. Sue took a lot of time designing that, so that's why she asks.
Yeah.
So, the top is just the rotation wheel, so again, we would put the opponent's rotations in here, what numbers are in each spot, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then just spread it out. That way we know who the personnel are. The first court I use for the service eve, what do they look like in service eve? Where are they standing? What patterns are they running for their offense? And then we track the shots where they're hitting to over here. We do that across the rotations. The second one you can use for serving. So where does a person serve from and to? Are they consistently a zone 1 to zone 1 server? That way you would know, hey, you could let your zone 1 passer know, hey, look, she's coming to you probably. Maybe she has a tendency. If it's a younger level and you just don't want to worry about that, then I leave this open for either tracking transition phase or maybe a plan B side out pattern that they're running, a different side out pattern. And then underneath is what they're doing in each rotation. So the blue is where we rate the pass. I just put 3, 2, or 1 or 0, whatever the pass is. The play they run from their outside to their middle to their right side, like what play did they run? And then you just circle who got set. And basically now you can kind of see, like, you can start to pick up maybe some tendencies. Does she always set this person when they get a 1 pass? You can kind of take a look at that. So, and then just any notes underneath, basically are right there. So I think, The next one is one that was kind of filled out. I'll see if I can kind of blow this up a little bit. So, this is one that's filled out. This is their serve receive pattern. The 16 is the setter. She's circled. Here's a libero. Here's number 12. 13 is a front row outside. That's why she's underlined. And then here's the middle, number 4. Here's the opposite, number 8. So, you can track passing. A plus is a good pass. So we served them here. She was a plus. Served her here, plus. So, this team was doing pretty well with their passing, right? Served into a seam, it was a good pass. And then the pattern they run. Outside's running a hut. The middle is running a slide. This opposite is running a 2-ball, right? So you can see the pattern, and then you can see where they're hitting to. So this is just a way for you to kind of accumulate some information. And, you can even change what your things look like. Like this is like a little hook is a tip. Makes it easy. You just draw a little hook, put a little circle. If we dug it, fill in the circle. If it was a kill, now you know where they're scoring their points. So, you can do whatever you want. You can add different layers to this, but the hooks are the tips. A line is, a hard driven ball. If it's an open circle, it was a dig. If it was a closed circle, it was a kill. This is like one of those plan Bs. They dropped somebody else, they're running a inside 2-ball and doing something different. And then all the stuff underneath is what we were just talking about. So, this is their pass. It was a 3 pass. They ran hut slide 2. They set the 2-ball. Here's another 3 pass. They changed their pattern. They ran hut gap red. They set the red. So even in this scenario, though, I can see they're setting the right side of the court a pretty good amount, right? So they're setting, they've set this 6 out of about 10 times. So 60% of their offense is running through over here. So maybe we'll want to think about what do we want to do, block and defensive wise. In row 2, like 75 or 80% of their offense is running to this right side of the court. So my middle is going to start to cheat that way, because we know they're stacking, they're trying to set the opposite here. So we're going to take a look at that. They set the red, ran a 2-ball, red. So we're going to know, all right, these are their tendencies. They're trying to set the opposite. So let's key on her.
Yeah,
so does that make sense?
I'm looking at row 3 too. This Oppo was
She must be really good.
Yeah, they're trying to wear her arm out a little bit. Kind of like what we did with our Oppo this year. But yeah, and again, you can start to see, on a 1 pass, what are they doing? Even in 1 pass, they're getting her the ball. 1 pass, setting the red. 1 pass, setting the red. 1 pass, she was probably on the run. And here's another thing. This is just something I've done. When I only see H here, it's because she didn't have any other option. She could only set the hut. So there was no way she was setting a red where this ball was passed. So this makes it easy. I know that she didn't jack this ball to get it there. I know this was her only option. If I had an R here, then she could have sent either way, and she chose to set the hut. But she was probably so much on the run, the only option was to set the hut. It just makes it easy to kind of see that.
And also for our audience, just so you guys know, Jeff calls it the red. I call it a 9. You may call it something different.
It's setting the opposite or the outside.
You understand your language that you're putting on your sheet, and your players understand, and whoever's going to read it, it doesn't matter what you call it, as long as you have the same language and vernacular.
Yeah, and then you look at row 5 and 6 here, where they're literally not running anything in the middle of the court, right? So they're running A or slide, and then same thing over here. They're running A or slide, and they're really trying to set the slide. So again, are we going to commit our middle to that, or are we going to commit her to the outside and go 1-on-1 with our left front? So is our left front responsible for the slide, then releasing our middle to go get the hut, which is probably what we're going to do in this scenario, because they're setting the hut a good amount. We want to get a 2 up on that, and we'll try to channel the slide to where we want it to go, and just tell our left front, take zone 6 away, and let's play good defense behind it, something like that. So, but again, these just help you see tendencies, and then you can really determine, okay, if they're setting the red a ton out of this, and this kid is just cranking the ball cross court, so maybe I want to tell my blocker, hey, move in a little bit, left hand on the ball. Let's take that cross court away, and let's have her hit down the line or our libero. Let's at least try that. Let's not give her that channel to hit, because they're going to set it 80% of the time. If we can slow it down, then we're in a better position. There's those percentages. Now I got 5% better. I got a better chance of winning the match.
All right, so let's put you already gave one situation. So you went and changed a blocking scheme against this right side. I want to get this right side out of the hitting sequence, out of her rhythm. Are you serving short to to two, I'm sorry, short to two to kind of take her out? Or are you putting the ball hard cross to five to get the ball away from her and make the setter work a little bit harder to push that ball to that back antenna? Maybe a little bit of both, or what are your first go-tos on something like that?
Yeah, at this point, you can probably see we were still trying to serve. We were trying to serve hard to zone one here. And I'm going to imagine it's because we have a kid that's really good at this. You know, it could have been our setter or our opposite, who I know can really hit this one-to-one ball with a good amount of pace and jam people up. Now, for some reason, it wasn't working very well here, but you know, we were still going to try and go after that, get it into a seam. We didn't want to serve her because she was a lights out passer. So we were going to go after here and make it a little bit more predictable that she would set the red with a ball coming over her shoulder, and then we might be able to be in a better position to slow it down.
Fair enough. Cool.
Yeah,
I like it. Awesome. Sue, anything else on that? I mean, you know, this is just one example of many, and, you know, it's the one that was in front of us. But I mean, I guess another one we could talk about is, you know, I know as a coach that, you know, if I knew a middle was going to run a quote unquote gap or 31 or a slide, I know there was places on the court I could serve, or we could serve as a team, so they could no longer do that at a high efficiency. Is that something you guys look at too?
Yeah, you know, we could try to jam people up. If you can see in rotation one, if you want to kind of go, zoom in on that, Jeff. You can see like here, if the middle's trying to run a slide, and you have the opposite trying to come in and run a two ball, if you jam people up, like maybe in zone like 2 or 3 and serve short, you know, you might create some traffic. So yeah, they might still be good at passing that short ball, but just because there's so many people in such a small area, they might not be able to run some stuff. Or, you know, same thing if they're running a gap. You know, it depends on the patterns. Where are they running from? Where are they transitioning from? I think a lot of that matters. So you look at a little bit of everything. How good are they at passing? Whether it's a deep ball you're trying to get them, or a short ball, are you trying to jam them up? You know, are they good at, you know, or if there's an outside that's passing, does she struggle when, like Jeff said earlier, is she out of rhythm if she has to go a little bit deeper to pass a ball and then she has to go and hit? Or do you take her, or is she a type of kid that wants to take a long approach? You jam her up by making her pass short, and now you take her out. You know, so there's a lot of different strategies that, you know, can come into play. So you can either, you know, create those opportunities based off the pass, or you can do it based off of you know, just creating some traffic and jamming people up. So
awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things.
And you know, there's even instances where, you know, let's say it's the team runs hut gap. You know, they're going to run a 31 with their middle. They're going to run hut. It's a front row setter. Setter's not a threat. You know, literally, we've just taken our left front and moved her all the way over to block the gap. Like, you're taking the gap, middle, you're there to help out, and then go get the outside. And then again, practice that kind of stuff. You know, these are practice emergency plan B situations, because all of a sudden, you know, it's like, it's, hey, let's go. If we slow this down, we get, and then practice to transition out of that when your left front is all the way over there. You know, that she knows how to do that kind of stuff.
So let's dive into that just a little bit, because I think you hit on a great thing. Is one of the things that drives me crazy, and I know it drives players crazy, is that when you throw them into a situation in a game that they either have never done or they feel like they have never ever done before. And there are some players that handle that situation really well, but most do not. So what's your take on, hey, I really think this will work, but we've never practiced it before? Do you go for it, or do you got to get player input? Do you have enough time for player input if you're in a game situation? Or are you just that good of a coach that you always practice plan B, C, and D?
We always practice it.
We always practice. And the only reason we do is because I remember, I want to say it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I heard Tiger Woods say once, he takes a bucket of balls and literally will just throw them into the woods. And then he'll go in and work on hitting out of that. You know, he'll literally put a ball up in a tree and work on climbing the tree and hitting the ball out of the tree. He's like, just because I never know when I'm going to be in that situation, hitting the ball out of the water, you know, because I don't want to lose the stroke if he's in that type of situation. So I remember hearing that and being like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we do practice a lot of plan B or emergency scenarios. But however, I will say there was a time that we didn't, and we had to implement something pretty quickly. We were down at AAU's in Orlando a few years ago with a I want to say it was a 17 open team. I think it was a 17 open team. It might have been a 16 open team, but 17 open, Sue?
I think it was 17 open.
Yeah, so we were going to play a match against the #1 seed in our pool. We were second at the time. We were getting ready to play them, and it would have meant first place for the end of the day. And the team we were playing had a kid, an opposite, going to Georgia. Tom Black had just gotten hired, and she was going to Georgia, and we're like, this kid's lights out. I mean, she was 6'4", and she was just tattooing every single ball, but she had a lot of tells. She raked cross court really hard. But anytime she hit line, it was this soft roll shot over the top. She didn't want to hit line with any pace. But she could detonate cross court. It was just, that was it. So we decided, okay, 20 minutes before the match, we're going to play an umbrella defense, which we've never worked on, which just means right back and middle back and right front are going to pull hard. Right front's pulling hard, back line to 10-foot line, right back and middle back. We're forming a 3-person umbrella there to dig up the cross court. Libero is up underneath the block to pick up this roll shot, like right at the 10-foot line. So basically there was, from zone 6-5 over, there was not one player to defend deep. But we had this umbrella on the other side, and we just told our block, you've got to take 5-6, steal it, let her go over the top, and let our defense dig. And, we ended up beating that team in 2, and I think the kid had 1 kill. And she just started to tip roll. She didn't like getting dug. She did not like that at all. And we ended up winning. But we implemented that. We took a court, we found an empty court, and we said, all right, this is what we're doing. Let's just trust it. And they were, to be honest, I've never seen them more excited. They were like, this is awesome. We're learning something new. I'm like, I've been trying to teach you guys new something for 4 months, but finally now you're going to listen. And it actually worked out well. And they were like, that was pretty cool. So I think if you show confidence in them while you're explaining, even if you're changing one thing, like, hey, I know you've not blocked this before, but just do this one thing and just try it and just go execute it, try it and have some fun with it. I think they'll look at it a little bit differently rather than like, I need you to do this. And they're like, I've never done it. Like, hey, try this. I think you'll be pretty good at it. Just do this one thing. Just focus on this one thing. Don't be like, block this, do this, do this, do this. Just, hey, I just need you to block her. And that's it. If it doesn't happen, transition and get off the net and be available in some capacity, but just have fun blocking her in this capacity and see if you can have some fun with it. So, yeah.
I would agree with that too. I mean, we do try to train every scenario and try to cross train our hitters to be able to hit more than just what they're supposed to be specializing in. But me personally, I like to be a risk taker. So there's times that maybe even Jeff has looked at me when I want to run a certain play set and he's like, but we didn't practice it. And sure enough, it works. Because I mean, a lot of times it's because you know your personnel and you know what they're capable of. So even if maybe you didn't practice that exact set or exact play, you kind of know in that moment if you can kind of do something. So yeah, I mean, I personally like being aggressive and being a risk taker, and I know Jeff knows that. So yeah, I say go for it. Why not? Why limit ourselves? I like to really stretch those ceilings. So.
Sounds good. Awesome. No, you don't know if you don't try, so might as well go for it, especially at the club level.
Yeah.
So we are now at, oh my goodness, what,
I know.
75 minutes. So
yeah, I know, right? Sorry, John, we went over.
No, it was good stuff. I mean, I wanted to learn more too and ask questions. So we had some great feedback from Facebook, a good viewership tonight. So I wanted to thank you both. Before I give you a chance to kind of say your last thoughts, and I'll open it up to any advice you want to give to our Jiva coaches after I say my little bit. But I wanted to say thank you again to all of Jiva and the Jiva coaches out there. Stay safe, be well. We're hoping we see people on courts sooner rather than later. We know things are still tough out there, but we're still here for you at Jiva and still working hard for you behind the scenes. Aaron Laban, thank you again for putting on the tech side and the Facebook Live side of this. Couldn't do this stuff without you and everybody else at Jiva too. So, with that said, another awesome session of Jiva Live. Sue, any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, well, I just want to thank you for having me on. This, not gonna lie, I was a little nervous, but it was a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be. Just really felt like, just talking and kind of, talking about things that we're all interested in and we're passionate about. So, yeah, if anything, I'm sure a lot of the coaches that are watching this, you're already doing it. Just be hungry, never be satisfied. This game's fun. Just when you think you learned something, there's so much more out there. And I know, Jeff's a huge guru with these numbers and stats and data and stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, how much more can I be contributing to the scouting portion? Although I have my responsibilities as well. But just learning and just really seeing the different sides of the game, especially if you're good at something, to explore and try to do the things that you haven't done before, and to really dive into those things and to love it. Because coaching isn't just throwing the balls out there and having the kids play. There's a lot more to it. There's scouting, game management, relationships with your players, your coaching staff, the administrative stuff. So there's so many things that we could be growing and learning and getting better at each day. So yeah, just stay hungry. That's all I have.
Cool. So you are very good at what you do. I definitely feel
thanks.
your talents without a doubt. Jeff, what else you got?
Yeah, first, thanks to Erin behind the scenes. I know she's doing a lot of doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So thank you, Erin. And I will second that comment you just made. Sue is really good at what she does, and I am extremely thankful that she's been a part of my staff. And we've been working together for over 12 years. So it's been awesome. For coaches, yeah, just if you're evenly matched, you're really just looking for one or two little things that you can pick apart. And that really is what it boils down to. How can we find a way to be a little bit better or execute a little bit better for them? And hopefully some of the things we pointed out will help you while you're at the tournament site, but also maybe help you in preparing your team, and how to prepare them and get them ready for these things that we might be asking them to do at a tournament, change something, move something around, do something different. But hopefully that kind of gives you a window into how to do that. You can look me up on Facebook, Instagram, Jeff Rotundo. I'm not hard to find, the bald guy, so just look me up. If anybody wants to, friend request me and ask any additional questions, please do. I'm here to help grow the game in any capacity we can, and be more than willing to get into some dialogue with people if they have additional questions after this.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'll second that too. I think all of us on here are very approachable people. So if you ever see us in the volleyball world, feel free to say hi, talk shop with us, just even about the weather. As you can see, we'll talk volleyball all day.
Yep.
I assume, Jeff and Sue, if somebody emails me at john.titus@jiva.org and they have a copy of your template?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep. Go ahead and give it.
I have fine. Want that, you're more than welcome to grab that. Cool. So without further ado, thank you for joining us again on another awesome session of Jiva Live on Facebook. Thank you and have a great night.